On the eve of our engagement, Yujia suddenly said he wanted to shave his head and become a monk, because he has Buddha in his heart. Right now he is dressed in plain clothes kneeling before me, with his palms pressed together. Amitabha, Mingwei, this humble monk has already seen through the mortal world and is unworthy of being your husband. In this life, I only wish for a green lamp and an ancient Buddha. If there is fate in the next life, we shall continue our connection. I looked at his devout expression and said softly, "Since brother Jia's heart is set on Buddhism, then I will grant your wish." A flash of astonishment crossed his eyes, and then he heard my tone shift. "It is just that. The conditions for cultivation in an ordinary small temple are harsh. I'm afraid it would hold you back. My father happens to be having tea with the abbot of the Royal Huguguo Temple tomorrow. I will make proper arrangements for you. Early tomorrow morning, I will have the abbot personally welcome you into the temple." Looking at his face that turned deathly pale in an instant, I added unhurriedly, "Oh, that is right. To show your sincerity, I will donate 100,000 taels of incense money to the Huguo Temple in your name. I will make sure that the abbot master takes good care of you." The piousness on Yujia's face shattered. He shot up from the prayer cushion, the shock and panic in his eyes almost overflowing. "Mingwei Yu, what do you mean by this?" His voice changed in pitch without a trace of its former unworldliness. I feigned surprise. "What do I mean naturally? I mean to grant your wish, Brother Jia. It is a heavenly blessing that you can see through the mortal world. I couldn't be happier for you." He got anxious, took a step forward wanting to pull my hand, but was calmly blocked by the old nanny beside me. Yujia's face flushed red. When I said becoming a monk, I meant a state of mind, a spiritual practice, not really shaving my head to become a monk. His tone was full of shame and anger. "Mingwei, I thought you understood me best." His eyes even welled up with tears, his tone grievous. "I suffer this torment day and night. On one side is you, on the other, are worldly thoughts I can't escape. I'm bearing this deepest pain for you to see, not for you to push me away, but for you to give me a hand." He looked at me in bitter disappointment. "Do you not have the slightest affection for me?" What a heartfelt and sincere confession. In my previous life, I fell for this bullshit. I believed he was just temporarily confused, and soft Jan-heartedly agreed to let him calm his mind. In the end, he turned around and went to calm his mind with his frail and helpless cousin. Lin Ching in the end. For her sake, he forced me to drink poisoned wine, seized my family's property, and brought ruin to my entire family. I sneered inwardly, but on my face, I feigned a look of sudden realization. "I see. It was my misunderstanding." I nodded, then turned sideways to instruct the maid waiting by my side. "Chunhei, go and invite my father and uncle and auntie Yu over." Yujia's face turned pale again. "Inzian inviting the elders for what? This is a private matter between us. Of course, it is to dispel your worldly thoughts for you." I smiled gently, but there was no warmth in my eyes. "You have a deep Buddhist nature, yet you're troubled by worldly thoughts. If you could have an eminent monk from the Royal Huguguo Temple preach the scriptures to you daily, wouldn't that be a tremendous blessing? Such a good thing that brings glory to the family. Of course, the elders must be invited to witness it together." Yujia's expression completely froze. He opened his mouth trying to explain. "Mingwei, you've really misunderstood." Just then, a rush of hurried footsteps was suddenly heard from outside the door, and a female voice on the verge of tears came through first. "Sister Mingwei." The next second, a slender figure rushed in like a willow swaying in the wind. With a plop, she knelt before me, desperately clutching the corner of my skirt. "Sister Mingwei, don't blame Brother Jia. It is all Ching's fault." She cried like a pear blossom in the rain, her little face deathly pale. "It was me, knowing my humble status and that I'm not worthy of Brother Jia, who said I was willing to spend the rest of my wretched life with a green lamp and an old Buddha." As she spoke, she kowtowed heavily, and her forehead quickly turned red. It was my words that caused his inner demons to grow rampant. If Sister Mingwei is unhappy, Qing is willing to kneel before the Buddha for a long time, praying for you and Brother Jia day and night. I only beg you, don't force him. Every word she spoke was like crying blood. She acted even more realistically than Yujia. Yujia looked at her, his eyes instantly filled with heartache and emotion. I quietly watched her performance to the end, then slowly squatted down and helped her up with my own hands. I said gently, "Cousin Qing, get up quickly. Why must you do this?" A flash of triumph crossed Lin Qing's eyes. Thinking I had softened, and she was just about to take the graceful way out I'd offered. But I held her hand tightly and said in an even more gratified tone, "You and Brother Jia are connected by Buddhist fate. Your hearts are in sync. This is truly a heaven-sent match. What could be wrong with it? If that is the case, why don't you go together?" I looked at her, and beaming with a smile, proposed my suggestion. "He'll enter the Royal Huguo Monastery, and you'll enter the Sion Nunnery at the foot of the mountain. From then on, with morning bells and evening drums, you can accompany each other in your spiritual practice. Wouldn't that be a beautiful story to be told for ages to come?" Lin Qing's crying came to an abrupt stop. Just at that moment, my parents and the parents of the Yu family stepped through the door together. They had just finished discussing the engagement details and were beaming, but seeing the frozen atmosphere in the room, their smiles instantly stiffened on their faces. Uncle Yu's face fell, and he shouted, "Jia Mingwei, what is all this commotion about?" "Uncle, it is wonderful news." I spoke up before anyone else, briefly explaining the whole situation. Finally, I concluded, "Brother Jia and Cousin Qing have seen through the vanity of the mortal world and are determined to take refuge in Buddha together. I have been moved by their sincerity and am preparing to help them fulfill their wish. I've already thought of the Huguo Monastery and the Siyun Nunnery for them. I will definitely not wrong them." Uncle Yu's face was already as black as the bottom of a pot. "Nonsense." He slammed the table and glared at me. "Mingwei, Jia is just being childish and said some nonsense to you. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it?" Before I could speak, my dad, the current Grand General who guards the nation, let out a cold snort and took a step forward. He didn't even say a word, but the murderous aura from years of guarding the border instantly made the two elders of the Yu family unable to breathe. In Zanlaw. My dad looked at Uncle Yu, his gaze as sharp as a knife. "My daughter is destined to receive the title of a first Dan-rank noble lady. Her husband, on the eve of their engagement, is making a fuss about becoming a monk for another woman. You tell me this is called nonsense? Or are you saying that the face of my general's mansion is worthless in the eyes of your Yu family?" The last sentence, with a voice like a great bell, shook the Yu parents' faces pale, and cold sweat instantly trickled down Uncle Yu's forehead. Only then did he realize that this was no longer a childish squabble, but a real humiliation to the general's mansion. Seeing this, Aunt Yu immediately changed her expression. She quickly walked to my side, grabbed my hand, her tone full of heartache. "Ah, Mingwei, listen to your auntie. Jia is just confused for a moment. It is because he values you too much. He was nervous before the wedding, so he read a few Buddhist scriptures and said some nonsense. You absolutely mustn't take it to heart," she said, and shot another fierce glare at you, Jia. "Hurry up and get your ass over here to apologize to your sister. Just say you lost your mind and you'll never dare to do it again." While soothing me, she urged Yujia, trying to frame this matter as a harmless joke between husband and wife. I sneered inwardly in my past life. She had also smoothed things over like this, turning big problems into small ones. I gently pulled my hand back, avoiding her intimacy, my tone still gentle yet firm. "Auntie, you've misunderstood. I'm not angry. I'm genuinely happy for Brother Jia." My tone was sincere, as if I was genuinely thinking of his best interests. For him to have such a great epiphany shows that his Buddhist nature is deep. We as his family should support him and help him fulfill his wish, not obstruct his heart's desire to follow the path. If we forcibly stop him, I'm afraid it will diminish the good fortune of both our families. Facing the ashen-faced you elders, I revealed a perfect smile. Uncle, Auntie, you should be happy for Brother Gia as well. What kind of place is the Royal Nations and Protecting Monastery? Ordinary people can't get in even if they want to. Seeing me pressuring them step by step, Uncle Yu finally couldn't sit still any longer. He forcibly suppressed his anger and adopted a negotiating tone. Mingwei, listen to a word of advice from your uncle. He stood up, cupped his hands in a salute to me, his posture very humble. GR was in the wrong, we admit it. When we get back, I'll definitely ground him and make him copy the family rules 100 times. But this matter of becoming a monk must absolutely not be mentioned again. He paused for a moment, his tone carrying a hint of another meaning. If word of this gets out, it is not just him. Even your maiden reputation will be criticized in the future. Our two families are old friends. Why must we take it this far, letting outsiders laugh at us? He was reminding me that a woman abandoned the night before her engagement would inevitably have a bad reputation. I sneered inwardly, but my expression didn't waver in the slightest. Instead, I nodded along with his words. Uncle is right. This matter certainly cannot be handled rashly. If we're going to do it, we must do it with great fanfare, so as not to tarnish the reputations of our two families. I directly raised my voice. Summoning, bring me a brush and ink. The maids quickly placed the writing materials before me. Under everyone's astonished and uncertain gazes, I rolled up my sleeves, picked up the brush, and said softly, while grinding the ink, I have met Master Laofan of Huguo Temple a few times. I will personally write a letter of recommendation for Brother Gia to be sure to ask the abbot to take extra care of him. I enunciated the words take care of with extra clarity. The expressions on the faces of the two elders of the Yu family could no longer be described as merely ugly. I put down the brush and felt it wasn't enough. Just a letter shows a lack of sincerity. I looked up at my personal maid, Chunhei. Go to the accounting office and get 100,000 taels in silver notes. I enunciated every single word clearly, as if afraid they wouldn't understand. To celebrate young Master Yu's devotion to Buddhism, my Ming family wishes to donate 100,000 taels of silver to the Huguo Temple in young Master Yu's name. Furthermore, we will announce to the entire city that in 3 days, a vegetarian feast for 100 monks will be held at the Huguo Temple to pray for blessings for the world and also to add blessings to young Master Yu's tonsure ceremony. At that time, we must have all the important and influential people in the capital come to join the grand event and bathe in the Buddha's light together. With a buzz, the minds of the two Yu elders completely exploded. If what just happened was merely a family scandal, now I am putting them on the fire to be roasted in front of everyone in the capital. If they agree, Yujia must become a monk, and the Yu family will become a huge laughingstock. If they don't agree, they are deceiving the Buddha, fooling the general's mansion, and more so, slapping themselves in the face in public, admitting their own son is a hypocrite who doesn't keep his word. This is an overt scheme, a checkmate that leaves them with no way to retreat. Mingwei, Yujia was both shocked and furious. You're crazy, Auntie Yu shrieked, losing her voice. Insolent, my dad suddenly shouted, his eyes as cold as ice. My daughter is earning a reputation for your Yu family, and you don't know what is good for you. Uncle Yu is, after all, an old fox in the officialdom. He forcefully suppressed his surging emotions and gave my dad a deep bow. General, please calm your anger, Mingwei. She means well. It is just that this matter is of great importance and needs to be considered at length. Considered at length. He was trying to use stalling tactics. Brother Gia. I ignored his stalling. Blew dry the letter with the 4 big words piously devoted to Buddha written on it, and handed it to Yujia, smiling radiantly. Look, are you satisfied with the wording of this recommendation letter? Yujia looked at those 4 words, feeling as if they were scorching hot to the touch. His face ashen as paper. The entire room was terribly quiet. Uncle Yu still wanted to make a final struggle. General, this matter. Say no more. My dad cut him off directly, his tone iced and cold. I'll just ask one thing, this recommendation letter. Will your Yu family accept it or not? This sentence was like a sharp blade, cutting off all paths of retreat. Uncle Yu stared at his own son with bitter disappointment. The muscles in his jaw clenched tight. He finally understood that if he couldn't satisfy the general's manner today, this marriage, and even the Yu family's future, would all be ruined. And the source of all this was the pitiful, Dan-looking Lin Qingqing. Kneeling to the side, weighing the pros and cons took only an instant. Uncle Yu suddenly turned to the steward at the side, his voice devoid of any warmth, as cold as the dead of winter. Samong, come, take Miss Lin, and send her back to the country estate. Without my order, she is never to return to the capital. The color drained from Lin Qingqing's face in an instant. She looked in disbelief at her usually gentle uncle. Once she was sent away, her life would truly be over. She desperately grabbed Yu Jia's sleeve, tears rolling down like broken strings of pearls. Brother Jia, save me. I don't want to go. No, wait, Dad. Qingqing is innocent, Yu Jia said anxiously, subconsciously taking a step forward to shield Lin Qingqing behind him. Seeing this, Auntie Yu's accumulated anger and fear completely erupted. She rushed over and slapped her own son hard across the face. A crisp and loud slap. You rebellious son, are you going to ruin our entire family for an outsider? She trembled with anger, pointing at Lin Qingqing and shrieking at the servants. What are you standing there for? Drag this menace out of here. Drag her out. A few burly old women were immediately summoned forward, about to grab Lin Qingqing. Just as she was about to be dragged away, in extreme fear, an incredibly insane thought flashed through Lin Qingqing's mind. She let out a shrill scream. You can't send me away. I'm carrying Brother Jia's child. Once those words were spoken, the entire room fell into a dead silence. Auntie Yu's hand froze in mid-Zan air. Uncle Yu's pupils contracted sharply, his face a mask of complete shock and fury. My parents' faces, in turn, instantly turned as cold as ice. Yu Jia himself was also stunned. He looked at Lin Qingqing in disbelief, his mind a complete blank. After shouting those words, Lin Qingqing, as if having exhausted all her strength, collapsed weakly to the ground. But she knew this was her only chance. While trembling uncontrollably, she desperately hugged Yu Jia. Brother Jia, have you forgotten that night a few days ago when you were drunk? Yu Jia's mind went buzz. A few days ago, because his wedding date with me was approaching, he was feeling depressed and had a few too many drinks. The events after that were hazy. He only remembered that it seemed to be Lin Qingqing who helped him back to his room. When he woke up the next day, there was no one else beside him, just a splitting headache. He didn't think much of it at the time, but now that Lin Qingqing had pointed it out in public, those blurry fragments instantly became ambiguous and unclear. Uncle Yu was the first to react, his lips trembling with anger, pointing at Yu Jia. You monster, tell me, is this true? Everyone's eyes were focused on Yu Jia. Yu Jia's heart was racing. Could it be? True, he didn't remember anything. But at this moment, he only knew that if he didn't admit it, Lin Qingqing would be truly finished. He looked at Lin Qingqing's teared and streaked and extremely miserable face, looked at the humble plea in her eyes, and a sense of heroism from being needed rushed to his head. He steeled his heart and made a choice. Dad, Mom. Yu Jia knelt down with a thump, pulling Lin Qingqing into his arms, as if to protect a priceless treasure. He raised his head, his face filled with a tragic sense of desperation, and said to everyone present, "It has already come to this. You can't make her leave, the child. The child is innocent." He finally admitted it after all. Auntie Yu's vision went black, and she almost fainted. Uncle Yu was even angrier, kicking Yu Jia on the shoulder. You rebellious son, you've completely disgraced our Yu family. But since it has come to this, beating and scolding is of no use. For the Yu family's own flesh and blood to be left outside is an even bigger scandal. Father and mother, you looked at each other. both seeing the humiliating compromise in the other's eyes. In the midst of the chaos, Ujiya seemed to have grabbed his last straw. He suddenly turned to me, placing all his hopes on me. Only if I nod my head can this disaster end today. He held Lin Ching and shuffled 2 steps forward on his knees. Coming before me, his head raised, his eyes full of bloodshot veins and humble begging. Mingwei, I know I'm the one who has wronged you. But look, now that there is a child, I can't be without her. He was incoherent, and his logic was a mess. Yet he desperately clung to this only excuse. You've always been the kindest and most magnanimous. You definitely couldn't bear to see an innocent child without a proper status, right? I'm begging you, please just accept her. He looked at me, a morbid hope flickering in his eyes. After she joins the family, I promise to only respect and love you. I will never neglect you, you can have her. Uncle Yu's face changed and he shouted sternly, Jiar, shut up. Let her be a Kozian wife, the best of both worlds. I finished the rest of his sentence for him. The whole room fell silent. Aunt, you looked as if all the strength had been drained from her body. She staggered and held onto the corner of the table to keep from falling. Uncle Yu's face turned the color of pig's liver. Looking at his hopelessly stupid son, he trembled with anger. Even my dad laughed out of anger at this utterly shameless proposal. I looked at his entitled face and spoke softly. So you mean, between Buddha and your cousin, you choose your cousin, and between me and your cousin, you want both? I leaned forward slightly, looking directly into his eyes, my tone shifting from contemptuous to icy cold. Ujiya, it is not Buddha you worship, it is greed. And another thing. My gaze went past him and landed on the trembling Lin Ching behind him. Even my family's dogs wouldn't eat from the same bowl as a stray. And you think you're worthy? The color drained from Ujiya's face in an instant. Bang! The teacup in my mother's hand was slammed heavily on the table, splashing tea everywhere. My dad shot to his feet, his tall figure carrying the irons and blooded, murderous aura of a battlefield veteran. That oppressive presence made everyone in the Yu family involuntarily lower their heads. In Zan law. He looked at the ashen Zan-faced Uncle Yu, his voice devoid of any warmth. I had originally thought this was just some nonsense from young people who didn't know any better. Now it seems, he sneered, that the upbringing of your Yu family is rotten to the core. He couldn't be bothered to spare Ujiya another glance, and said directly to me, Mingwei, a husband's family like this, we're better off not marrying into it. No, we can't. Aunt Yu was the first to react. She threw her decorum to the wind, rushing in front of my dad in a few steps, her voice choked with sobs. In Zan law, General, you absolutely mustn't. The child is ignorant. It is our failure in raising our son. I beg you to give us another chance. We'll send that menace away right now. Immediately, the bastard in her womb will also be taken care of. Uncle Yu also hurriedly cupped his hands, cold sweat already soaking his back, his voice trembling. That is right, General. This marriage was decided long ago. If we call it off now, it won't be good for Mingwei's reputation. Even at this moment, he still wanted to use my reputation to threaten us. My dad let out a cold laugh, his smile filled with killing intent. A daughter of my Ming family, even if she remains unmarried for her entire life, will still be the cherished pearl of the residence of the general who guards the nation. He looked around at everyone, his voice booming like a great bell. But to marry a fickle, irresponsible piece of trash like the one from your family, that would be the greatest insult to my general's residence. He turned around and took from my mother's hand that bright red marriage certificate that had already been prepared, under the terrified gazes of the 2 Yu family elders. With a fey-rip fey, he tore it in half. Auntie Yu's pleading cries stopped abruptly. She stared blankly at the 2 pieces of fluttering red paper, the last trace of blood draining from her face. Tomorrow morning, my dad's voice was iced and cold without a trace of emotion. I will personally send someone to the government office to nullify this marriage. From this day forward, the marriage agreement between my Ming family and your Yu family is void, and we will have no further connection." He paused, his sharp gaze sweeping over Yujia and Lin Qingqing, the killing intent in his eyes making both of them tremble at once. "As for your Yu family's domestic affairs, how you deal with this pair of lovers, whether you beat them or let them stay, our general's manor has no interest in knowing." After speaking, my dad didn't spare them another glance and directly ordered the butler, "See the guests out." 2 short words, yet they extinguished the Yu family's last hope. All the fantasies, all the paths to success, turned to dust in this very moment. Uncle Yu's face was ashen, and he could barely stand. And Auntie Yu's eyes, little by little, turned to despair. Finally, her resentful gaze was fixed deadly on Lin Qingqing, who was cowering behind Yujia. "It is you. It is all because of you." It was as if Auntie Yu had finally found an outlet for her frustration and went completely insane. She charged forward like a shrew, wildly clawing and hitting Lin Qingqing's face and body, spewing vicious curses. "Vixen Jinx, it is you who seduced my son. It is you who ruined my Yu family's future. You dare get pregnant with a bastard. I'm going to beat this vile spawn out of your belly today." Yujia instinctively protected Lin Qingqing, but got his face scratched bloody by his frantic mother. The scene was a chaotic mess. "We are truly in love." Lin Qingqing struggled and cried out. "It wasn't me who seduced him. He was good to me first." "Shut up," Auntie Yu, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, shrieked, cutting her off. She began to frantically list out Lin Qingqing's crimes. "Ever since you came to our house, you've been saying you feel unwell every day, hogging Jier's attention. You deliberately played the zither outside his study. Didn't you just want him to hear? And last month, you pretended to fall on him, thinking no one would see." The more she spoke, the more agitated she became, directly calling over the manor's servants. "All of you, speak up. Tell us if this vixen has been pestering our young master." Several servants immediately knelt down, stammering as they testified how Lin Qingqing would unintentionally appear before Yujia, and how she used being frail and sickly to gain sympathy. In an instant, all the blame was thrown onto Lin Qingqing alone. She became that shameless person who deliberately schemed to seduce her cousin. And Yujia became the deluded victim. I watched this ridiculous farce with a cold gaze, my heart filled with nothing but scorn. These 2 people have long been having an affair, flirting with each other. Neither is innocent. I couldn't be bothered to watch their dog Zan eats and dog performance any longer, so I gently tugged on my dad's sleeve. My dad understood immediately and gave a slight nod to the butler. The butler immediately stepped forward and made a pleas gesture to the devastated Uncle Yu. As he was being escorted out by the servants, Yujia stumbled past the desk, his steps faltering. I followed his gaze and saw that sincerely devoted to Buddha recommendation letter. I walked over, picked up the clean Schwan paper, and in his complex gaze filled with hope and fear, I let out a soft chuckle. Then, in front of him, I slowly tossed it into the charcoal basin beside me. "As for this letter, might as well burn it. The Huguo Temple is a pure place. Don't let an unclean name dirty the Buddhist gates." The flames instantly licked upwards, devouring the Schwan paper. The fragments of the marriage contract, together with the recommendation letter burned to ashes, buried all of the Yu family's hopes of social climbing. Yujia stared blankly at the dancing flames, his whole being as if his soul had been sucked out. After a long while, he suddenly raised his head to look at me. It was as if he realized he would lose me forever, and along with me, the path to success that could have allowed him to reach the heavens in a single step. After the Yu family was unceremoniously escorted out of the residence, the front hall finally returned to its tranquility. Our family went back to the inner hall, and it was only then that Mother held my hand, her eyes red Zan-rimmed. "Where, you've been wronged." I squeezed her hand back and gently shook my head. "Mom, it is a good thing to see a person's true colors in time. But after all, they caused such a scandal, your reputation." "Mom," I interrupted her, my tone firm. Your daughter's reputation was earned through the distinguished military service of the Zhengguo general's manor, not gained through a marriage. Cutting ties with a family of immoral character and corrupt ways will only make discerning people praise our family for its integrity. My dad looked at me, his expression complex. Where, while your actions today were satisfying, you've also offended the Yu family to the core. They'll probably bite back. Dad, a cornered dog will of course leap the wall. I calmly refilled his tea. But what I want is for him to jump. The higher he jumps, the harder he'll fall. Seeing that my parents were still worried, I decided to give them a dose of strong medicine. Besides, the Yu family's ship, which is riddled with holes, is about to sink. I slowly recounted my memories from my past life. The Yu family's shipping business has long since been mostly snatched up by the Wang family. The only reason they can still keep up appearances is that they're relying on the marriage contract with our family to borrow from various trading houses for their cash flow, essentially just making a big, empty promise. Dad, you tell me once the news of our broken engagement gets out, what will those merchants who see which way the wind blows do? A sharp glint flashed in my dad's eyes. I continued. In less than 3 months, their family will have to sell their ancestral home to fill the hole. Us pulling out now is just in time to stop the loss. After hearing my words, the last trace of hesitation on my parents' faces disappeared, replaced by relief and lingering fear. Just as I expected, the day after the news of the engagement cancellation got out, the Yu family's doorstep was almost worn down by the businesses coming to demand payment. My dad then gave a slight hint to the Wang family, and the Wang family immediately understood, completely seizing the Yu family's last shipping route. Beset by troubles from within and without, the Yu family fell into a desperate situation overnight. On the 3rd day, when the Yu family of 3 appeared at our door again looking haggard, I was not surprised at all. This time, they couldn't even enter the front hall's door and were led directly by the butler to a side hall in the outer courtyard. The moment Uncle Yu saw me, he bowed deeply, his posture extremely humble. Mingwei, niece, it was your uncle who was muddled and headed before. We failed to discipline our son properly. I beg you, for the sake of our family's long standing friendship, please, plead with your father, spare our Yu family, and give us a way out. Aunt Yu went even further, directly pulling the tightly bound Lin Qingqing down to her knees, saying tearfully, Mingwei, once you've calmed down, you can do whatever you want with this bitch. Beat her to death, sell her off. We won't say a word. Yujia knelt straight in front of me, his forehead slamming heavily against the cold bluestone slab. Mingwei, I was wrong. I was blind and fooled by this slut. He was screaming his lungs out, looking like a madman. She is not pregnant at all. This was all a lie she made up to stay. I was framed by her. To prove his words, he actually grabbed Lin Qingqing's head, forcing her to kowtow. Hurry up and speak. Quickly tell Mingwei how you tricked me. Speak up. Lin Qingqing's hair was disheveled, and she was crying so hard she couldn't catch her breath. Under Yujia's violent coercion, she could only intermittently admit the fact that she had faked a pregnancy to deceive people. Yujia looked up, his eyes bursting with ecstasy and hope, shuffled to me on his knees, trying to pull the corner of my skirt. Mingwei, you heard that. I'm innocent. There is only you in my heart, from beginning to end. Only you. Let's start over. Okay, I'm begging you. Give me one more chance. I quietly looked at his face, which was full of eagerness for quick success and instant benefit. So, my tone was calm, but every word was heart-piercing. You mean to say, you didn't betray me for an unborn child. You betrayed me just for a clumsy lie. Yujia's crying came to an abrupt stop. I looked at his instantly pale face and continued. Yujia, don't you understand even now? Whether she was pregnant or not, whether it was true or false, is not important at all. The important thing is, between your cousin and me, you chose her. For her, you didn't hesitate to disgrace my general's mansion, making me the laughingstock of the entire capital. Your choice had nothing to do with the child, and nothing to do with lies. It was only about your own wavering, selfish heart. My gaze went past him, falling on the equally pitiful and hateful Lin Qingqing behind him. Now that you've discovered she not only can't bring you any benefits, but has instead ruined your future, you cast her aside like a worn-out shoe and drag her before me, as a pledge of allegiance in your plea for forgiveness. I let out a soft laugh, a laugh full of contempt. What you're begging for isn't my forgiveness. What you're begging for is the wealth and honor that was within your grasp. It is the future you've already lost. My words tore apart his last shred of dignity. The humble pleading on Yu Jia's face faded, replaced by a kind of venomous resentment and madness. He suddenly started laughing, his laughter hoarse. Good. What a Ming Wei. What a legitimate daughter of the Zhongguo general's mansion. He abruptly stood up, pointed at me, and roared with a ferocious expression. Don't make yourself out to be so noble. Didn't you just latch onto a higher branch, and that is why you were in such a hurry to kick me away? Everyone in the capital is watching. The moment something happened to me, the heir of Prince Duan started making advances toward you. Did you two have an affair long ago? And that is why you set up this scheme to frame me? Let me tell you, even if I, Yu Jia, am finished, I'll make sure the whole world knows that you, Ming Wei, are a promiscuous, unchaste. Smack. A crisp slap interrupted his vicious curses. I turned my head and looked at this strange guard who had appeared out of nowhere. A clear and somewhat languid voice came from the doorway. Young Master Yu, speaking recklessly about an Imperial relative behind their back, are you trying to add to the Yu family's crimes? I lifted my eyes to look and saw the current emperor's most favored nephew, Xiao Jingyuan, the heir apparent of Prince Duan, dressed in black brocade robes, standing by the door with his hands clasped behind his back. I don't know when he had arrived, or how long he had been listening. The guard who had acted so swiftly just now had already retreated silently behind him, clearly on his orders. He slowly walked into the hall, his gaze not even lingering on Yu Jia, but looking directly at me. He nodded slightly, his tone gentle. I had a chess game arranged with the general and arrived a bit early. I didn't mean to disturb Miss Ming while handling her family matters. Xiao Jingyuan glanced at the teared and streaked and wretched Yu Jia, the corners of his mouth lifting into a half-Zan smile. Young Master Yu, he began unhurriedly, his tone calm. Yet it made Yu Jia tremble all over. The other day I heard you had seen through the vanity of the world and devoted yourself to Buddhism. Yet today you're here spouting such filth. It seems all that Buddhist practice has gone to the dogs. He let out a soft chuckle, but his eyes suddenly turned cold. He turned to the guard by his side, his tone indifferent yet leaving no room for argument. Since, young master, you can't control his own mouth, I suppose his legs are of no use to him either. Drag him out. The guard immediately acknowledged the order and stepped forward. Yu Jia was so scared his face lost all color, unable to even utter a single word of pleading. Just like that, he was grabbed by the arms, one man on each side, his feet dangling off the ground, and dragged out in utter disgrace. Seeing this, the two elders of the Yu family were scared out of their wits. Just as they were about to speak, Xiao Jingyuan's gaze fell upon them. As for Vice Minister Yu and Madam Yu, his tone turned grim. You failed to discipline your son, indulged a family member in committing fraud, blatantly came to the doorstep of the general who guards the nation's residents to deceive. And now, you even spout wild accusations, slandering a noble lady of imperial relation. He paused and instructed the steward. Invite the two of them to the side hall for tea. They are not to leave without the general's command. I think the general, his old self, would very much like to have a good chat with you two about what rules are. The steward immediately bowed and complied. A few tall and sturdy female servants stepped forward and, politely yet forcefully, invited the Yu couple, whose legs had already gone soft, to the side hall. The hall was finally quiet, with only the bound, shivering Lin Qingqing left in the corner. I slowly walked in front of her, squatted down, and with my own hands tidied up her messy hair at the temples. Cousin Qingqing, Do you still remember? I asked softly. You said you wished to be with a green lamp and an ancient Buddha for the rest of your wretched life, praying for me and Brother Jia. Lin Qingqing's body suddenly went stiff. Her eyes filled with terror. She shook her head desperately, and her tears flowed even more fiercely. You see, I smiled. But there was no warmth in my smile. I'm the kind of person who just loves helping others fulfill their wishes. Jaguar can't go to Huguo Temple anymore. But your wish, I will definitely fulfill it for you. I stood up and said to the butler at my side, Go, contact Jingxin Nunnery in the south of the city. Tell the abbess there that in the name of the general's mansion, I am donating 1,000 taels for incense oil. I have only one request. My gaze fell upon Lin Qingqing's deathly pale face as I said, word by word, you must make this Miss Lin copy scriptures day and night, pound rice and chop firewood without slacking. Let her use the rest of her life to properly pray for blessings, for my general's manor, Jingxin Nunnery. That is the capital's famous hard Zan labor nunnery. The women from officials' families who go inside, if they don't die, they'll still have a layer of skin peeled off there. That face she was so proud of and her delicate figure would only be original sin. The last trace of light in Lin Qingqing's eyes died out, and she collapsed limply to the ground like a puddle of mud. Several burly servant women came forward, covered her mouth, and dragged her away without a sound. I finished handling all this, and only then did I turn to look at Xiao Jingyuan. He had been watching quietly, his eyes showing not a hint of surprise, but instead carrying a trace of deeper appreciation. He finally spoke, his tone gentle. To deal with a mad dog, there is no need to reason with him, just clean him up. I shook my head and bowed to him. My apologies for making a fool of myself, Shizzy. He looked at me, a hint of admiration in his deep eyes. Miss Ming cuts through the Gordian knot with a sharp knife. What need is there for me to come to the rescue? I just happened to help you throw out a piece of trash, that is all. On the 5th day after the Yu family was driven out of the general's mansion, a wind quietly began to stir in the capital city. This wind rose from the tea houses and taverns, flourished in the streets and alleys, and finally blew into the backyards of every mansion and onto the mistresses' card tables. That old fox, Uncle Yu, had already left himself this path of mutual destruction before he came to beg for mercy. In the wind, there is a lamentable story. In the story, Yu Jia, the former heir of the Marquise's mansion, was a victim who was wholeheartedly devoted but was hurt badly by reality. And I, Ming Wei of the Zhongguo general's mansion, became another version. Have you heard? The reason why the Yu family fell so quickly is because the Zhongguo general's mansion was behind it all. It is more than that. I heard that Miss Ming had long since latched on to the powerful heir apparent Duan. Finding the Yu family an obstacle, she deliberately set a trap to hound them to their deaths. Poor heir apparent Yu. All his true love was given to the wrong person. On the night before the engagement, he just spoke a few more words with his cousin and was branded with having an illicit affair. Not only was the engagement broken off, but it also led to his family's ruin and death. The story was spun so vividly, it even had details. They say that girl from the Lin family was never even pregnant, that Miss Ming tortured her into a confession and just framed her. Mrs. Yu went to plead and was about to kneel, but that Miss Ming didn't even lift an eyelid. She turned around and burned the token, and the very next day had the Wang family cut off the Yu family's shipping routes. These methods, TSK, more ruthless than a man. In this version of the story, Yu Jia's becoming a monk became a heartbreaking act under duress. Lin Qingqing's fake pregnancy became a grievance she was framed for, and the Yu family's pleas for mercy became the wails of victims. And I, on the other hand, was a vicious woman who, in order to marry into power, would not hesitate to fabricate crimes and destroy her fiancé's entire family. I was jealous, cruel, promiscuous, and treacherous. All the dirty water was just silently splashed onto me like that. Mother was trembling with anger, and father even slammed the table and stood up, wanting to arrest the people in the city who were gossiping. Dad, Mom. I stop them. If you arrest people now, it will only confirm that we have a guilty conscience. This is exactly what they want. In my previous life, it was just like this. Amidst countless rumors and gossip, my reputation was completely ruined, and I became the laughingstock of the entire capital city. Then what should we do? Mother was worried sick. Just let them slander you like this? I looked out the window, my eyes calm. They want to ruin my reputation. It is nothing more than wanting to drag me down with them, and while they're at it, see if they can win some sympathy, maybe even attract the attention of the censors, giving them a chance to overturn their case. Since they've already set the stage and want to put on a sob story, a cold smirk appeared on my lips. Then I'll help them make this stage burn a little brighter. 3 days later, the eldest princess's residence hosted a flower viewing banquet, and almost all the noble ladies in the capital were present. As soon as I appeared, I felt countless probing, scornful, and gloating gazes. During the banquet, the daughter of the Vice Minister of Personnel, who had always been on good terms with the Yu family, covered her mouth in feigned surprise. Sister Mingwei, recently rumors have been flying around the capital. They all say you absolutely must not take it to heart. We all believe you. While her lips said believe, her eyes were full of the mischief of enjoying a good show. I put down my teacup, and not only did I not get angry, I instead revealed a sad, bitter smile and sighed softly. You're right, sister. Actually, this rumor isn't entirely false. The moment I said this, the whole room was in an uproar. Even the daughter of the Vice Minister of Personnel was stunned. I dabbed the corner of my eye with a handkerchief. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for everyone around to hear. I did indeed force Yujia, and I did indeed disdain him. I despised him for being a man with no sense of responsibility, who for a cousin who lied about being pregnant, would just ignore the marriage contract between our two families, causing my general's mansion to be utterly disgraced. I forced him to choose between a lonely life with a green lamp and an ancient Buddha and his cousin and her child. He chose the latter, so I granted his wish and took the initiative to withdraw from the marriage. Is there anything wrong with that? As for Prince Duan's heir, he is even more innocent. He just happened to be there when the Yu family came to our door to act shamelessly, and helped my general's manor to repel the obnoxious guests. But who would have thought this would actually become Yujia's excuse to bite back and slander my innocence? This confession of mine was a feigned retreat for a real advance, instantly turning the vague accusations in the rumors into facts that were advantageous to me. The looks from the noble ladies around began to change, from contempt to contemplation and sympathy. The face of the daughter of the Vice Minister of Personnel turned pale and then white, and she still wanted to say something. A voice then came drifting over leisurely. Oh, the version I heard seems to be a bit more exciting than what Miss Ming said. Xiao Jingyuan at some point had also appeared by the banquet for the female family members. The moment he appeared, he attracted everyone's attention. He waved the folding fan in his hand and said slowly, "The version I heard is, Vice Minister, you has been embezzling government silver through shipping for years, and he has long been just an empty shell." In order to cover the deficit, he rushed to latch on to the general's manor, even going so far as to stage a fake pregnancy to force their hand drama, in a vain attempt to make the general's manor suffer a loss they couldn't talk about. He looked around at everyone and said with a smile, "What a pity. Your scheme was clever enough, but you forgot the honor of the general's manor. Is it something that lowly scoundrels like you can so easily insult?" With just a few words, he twisted the foundation of the rumor from romantic affairs to the level of deceiving the monarch and disrespecting superiors. The daughter of the Vice Minister of Personnel's face turned white, then green. But Xiao Jingyuan acted as if he didn't see. Instead, he turned to me and asked with feigned confusion, his tone gentle, "Miss Ming, the general's manner is benevolent and won't hold this against them. But I've heard that Yujia is still in that ruined temple in the west of the city, crying to people every day, saying that he and you shared a deep and profound love, and that you betrayed him because you despised the poor and coveted the rich." He paused, and then his tone shifted, a hint of coldness in his voice. "This prince can't stand to see a devoted lover suffer. Since young Master Yu is so devoted, and wholeheartedly devoted to Buddha, it is better to grant his wish completely." He instructed the guards behind him. "Pass on my words. Say that young Master Yujia's act of pious devotion to Buddha has moved heaven and earth. This prince has decided to donate funds to rebuild that dilapidated temple west of the city and bestow upon it the name Repentance Convent. In addition, send 100 homeless beggars and vagrants to the temple to cultivate with him, to properly accompany young Master Yu, so that he can feel the true affection of the human world day and night, and achieve enlightenment soon." Once these words were spoken, everyone present was stunned. Anyone could tell what a heart-crushingly cruel move this was. Locking Yujia and his audience in the temple together. In name it was fulfilling his wish, but in reality it was life imprisonment. Bestowing the name Repentance Hut further nailed his crimes shut. Not only did it cut off any possibility of him coming out to spread rumors again, but it also lumped him in with beggars and vagrants, humiliating him to the extreme. From now on, Yujia's infatuation will become the biggest joke in the entire capital, and all the rumors about me will fall apart on their own. I looked at Xiao Jingyuan, and he also looked at me, a hint of a smile and appreciation in his eyes. After the affair of the Yu family was completely settled, the betrothal gifts from the manor of the heir of Prince Duan were carried through the main gate of the general's manor, like a flowing stream. That day, a 10 Zan-Li red dowry procession shocked half the capital city. Xiao Jingyuan personally came to our home to propose, and solemnly promised my dad that he would never fail me in this life. My dad looked at this young man before him, with his refined and noble air and calm, steady eyes, and showed a truly satisfied expression. Not long after, an imperial edict was issued, a marriage personally bestowed by the emperor. The occasion was more than 10 times grander than when we were discussing marriage with the Yu family back then. Everyone in the capital was saying that I, Mingwei, was casting aside a worn Zan-out shoe to gain a bright pearl, and that I had immense good fortune. They didn't know that this good fortune was what I had traded the blood and tears of my past life for. My grand wedding with Xiao Jingyuan caused a sensation. After our marriage, he respected me, understood me, and never let me suffer the slightest grievance. He would watch the sunrise with me, and he would also quietly refill my cup with hot tea while I was looking over the account books. Relying on my memories from my past life, I helped the general's manor and Prince Duan's manor avoid several crises of turbulent undercurrents, and my position became more and more secure. Occasionally, from the servants' idle chatter, I would hear about the Yu family's current miserable state. I heard that Minister Yu was eventually found guilty of corruption with conclusive evidence, and was exiled 3,000 Li. The Yu family's assets were confiscated, and Madam Yu couldn't handle the shock and went mad. And Yu Jia, who was cultivating in the Repentance Temple, was heard to have not made it half a year before contracting a serious illness, and passed away without a sound on a day of heavy snow. As for Lin Qingqing in the Jingshin nunnery, I heard she had long been tortured by the heavy hard labor to the point of being unrecognizable, and became a silent wood chopping old woman with none of her former beauty remaining. I just listened, feeling not a single ripple in my heart. Outside the window, the sunlight was just right. Xiao Jingyuan was playing chess with his father in the courtyard, and bursts of hearty laughter could be heard from time to time. In this life, peace and quiet is the consummation I sought.